Welcome to iAMradio number 13. Woo woo. I'm trending towards 24 of them at least. If you have any topics that you want me to touch on that I haven't yet, do let me know. Today I'll be talking about self-respect, and I'm starting to see across the broadcasts some themes, and I'll try to point those out as the main learning points. And excitedly, I'm also introducing my first hackronym today, which would be a way for you to remember the steps so that you can actionabilize what's here. My main point in all of my broadcasts and my work is to empower people to remember that they already know. And to me, that means that they have an awareness of what is correct for them, and they feel comfortable and confident acting on that. From what I've seen, hey Mike, from what I've seen, what people are actually seeking and searching is the feeling of being themselves, unfiltered, in a place of love and safety. So they want to act from a place knowing that they're good now, they'll be good later, everybody else is good. And the way you get there is not by making everything else good. The way you get there is actually accepting how things are now. And if you've seen some of my broadcasts, I've touched on what a kicker that was to me when I found out, because I tried all the ways to figure out how to control things externally and then internally, only to find out the sensation that I was seeking was found in appreciating and loving things as they are right now. And to me, that is what unconditional love is, and that's another way to describe or call the thing that we're looking for. And unconditional love is actually something that you give to yourself and to your moment, which is great because that means you don't have to go anywhere for it. So today I will be talking about what self-respect is and why it matters. And I have some notes and diagrams set up. My goal is to get through this in about 20 minutes. And if you but if you have comments or things that you would like to share, shout, or ask, please do. I'm always happy. Well, let's say I'm let's say at least always amused. So let me start with, when I'm talking about self, what is self? If you've seen some of my other stuff, I talk about how you don't exist, and you do and you don't, and we do and we don't, and there are a bunch of ways to talk about that. I could come at how we don't exist from a few different angles, but keeping it on the ground, you don't exist separate from everything else. And so while you have the illusion of being an autonomous little human, you're part of a larger system. One way to think about that is I've got a body and a body and a body. So this could very easily be a heart and then cells, or a nation, a city, a family. So the component pieces add up to the entirety, or the large self, and the large self breaks apart into the component or smaller pieces. So you see they're kind of like the same. While they're different, they're not separate. So when I'm talking about self-respect today, I'm talking about respect for the individual, you, which is actually the same as respect for the whole, which is you, and also respect for the other, which is you, because you're all part of the same system. It's one closed loop. How you treat your brother is how you treat yourself, because you live on the same. I hate to say it, no. I'm not really sold on, I can't personally say I know what the confines of the system that we're operating are in. Like, Is it a simulation? Is it a matrix? To be honest, I guess I'm not sold on the spinning rock story, but it could be. And if we are looking at we're all on this spinning rock called Earth story, then very plainly you could see that, like if you take from one area, it goes to the other area, and the imbalance, like it's all one system. Okay, so your individual self matters, and our cultural conditioning shames having any type of selfishness. Oh, you think you want, you're different, you want this, I'll sacrifice, be a martyr, and it's very subtle, and it's even difficult to see because you're so used to it. But the idea is basically make yourself uncomfortable for somebody else. That's love. When you make yourself uncomfortable for somebody else, you also exist in a loop there. You, them, your togetherness. If compromising yourself to accommodate what you think they need, because often we're not really on the ground about what the actual other person actually wants or needs, we're thinking we know, and so we're adjusting ourselves to this idea, which is funny in itself. But if you adjust yourself to fit in a dynamic, and this dynamic could be a relationship with another person, a job, a place, a family, who knows, whatever, you have tension or resistance in your system, which then becomes a part of the total system. So here you are hushing what you actually think and feel so that the other person's okay. And ultimately that'll snap back. This is my primary argument for transparency. And right behind that would be, what's the point of being in the system if not for love and growth? And you can't do either of those if you're hiding yourself. And when you are doing this is not self-respect. And yet, you can turn it to self-respect incredibly quickly without changing your behavior by allowing yourself to see when you're making a choice that compromises yourself, and accept that you're making the choice, meaning you don't judge you about it. That is the trapdoor. Acceptance is where it's at. You want everything you're looking for, I'm gonna say, is you can find through that door, or let's say the meaningful things, and probably other things. The point is, here, when you allow yourself to accept that you aren't behaving at the way that you think you should, you are respecting yourself. You respect your experience by allowing it. And that practice over time translates to different choices and different behavior. When you offer yourself self-respect, over time, you come to see what that feels like, and then you begin to act from that place because it feels safe and normal and natural. And why would you compromise yourself to get something else if you already feel good? That's the power of, if you think, and okay, so I have this big ass flashlight next to me. That's how we're getting this light, and it seems like the battery is failing. So I'm gonna leave it on for now, but if it starts to get distracting to you, let me know. If you, I think it's getting distracting to me. I feel like I'm at a club or the eye doctor and they're testing my responsiveness. Now, it's blinking now. Just kidding, it wasn't blinking now. All right. With self-respect, raising your baseline. Okay, so in truth too, when you're looking at the interrelatedness and interconnectedness of the system, there is so much room for forgiveness of yourself and others, because you can't really see things until you see them. And most of the things that we do that are harmful to ourselves and to others, we don't really see, and or we don't see an alternative. This type of compromise in a relationship, you're trying your best. Come at it from love and respect that you're willing You're willing on some level to compromise yourself to preserve the integrity of this relationship or the other person. Like there's good intentions behind this stuff. And so when you start to see where you're not making choices that actually respect yourself, or maybe you have seen for a while and you've been trying to push your behavior, the way to get your behavior to change is to offer yourself self-respect through acceptance and forgiveness of what you're doing. Of course you're behaving that way. Why wouldn't you behave that way? Given everything else, like, it's okay. When you do something like that, when you offer yourself, it's essentially compassion as well. You then learn how to do it for other people, because you can see that the standards that you're holding them to might not be fair either, because the limits of what they can see and how they were conditioned. This model basically says, this very advanced scientific model basically says that the movie Trading Places is correct. You are a feature of your environment, and people who started out here in the foot think that they're in the foot because of how they behave, but likely they're in the foot because of how they started. We've got external conditions that influence our behavior and internal conditions, and when you really think about it, are you responsible for your willpower? Where is that? What is it? Some people have it, some people don't. Are they responsible for not having vision beyond where they are? Some people, there's a lot that seems like choice that's not. It's a big pill to swallow, because then you can't be special. Are you in a relationship romantically? It's a big pill to swallow at first, because you can't be special and you can't be mad at anybody else. And if you do offer that level of acceptance, will things get out of hand? Will things get crazy? From what I've seen, no. It helps you recognize the body as one, and to offer the foot what they didn't have, like what the hand has. So you work together. This is my vision for the future as well. Everybody here is like, oh, my brother, one body, let's do this. So going back to how to offer yourself respect, this is wherever you find space to drop the trap door, which is the trap door says, I accept. Maybe you practice this in how your hair looks. Maybe you practice this in what you're eating or you're not eating, or you're exercising or not exercising. Maybe you try this out with how much work you're doing or not doing. Wherever you find a trap door, like wherever there's just enough space to draw one, you can. It doesn't have to be a big way. It doesn't have to be everywhere. It doesn't have to be the hardest place. One place is enough to start to develop the habit. And once the habit is developed, you create a feedback loop, and you see that it kind of works. And so the areas that you were afraid to try it in, you kind of want to now, because you have evidence that acceptance offers more than just like all out pushing or berating or anything else you'd be doing self-critically. Questions, thoughts, comments, feelings so far? Okay, so this is my first hackronym, and one, I'm really excited about the word, obviously, and two, it's something that I can pass out after. So I do write these backwards, and that means that most of the G's go the wrong way. But I'm going to run through this list, and these are the 7 steps to bring self-respect into your personal life, which brings it into your interpersonal life, which brings it to the mofo world. Step 1, real, be. Notice, be real. So in step 1, you have to allow yourself to see what's happening. You got to be real about it. And when I say gotta, shoulda, etc., all of this is in my humble opinion, and like, you do you. But if you wanted to follow my steps, step 1 is real, be. Notice. You gotta be real about what's happening or what's not happening. I feel uncomfortable. I notice that. I really don't want to do that for them. I notice that. I'm not taking care of myself here. Notice. Step 1, notice. Usually we push off noticing. It's like not opening the mail, because then you don't have to deal with it if you don't see what it is. But step 2, expect it to improve, is right behind noticing. When you bring something into your awareness, no matter how ugly or how big, it will improve. Awareness is really, like, it generally is all that it takes. If somebody's doing something that's really like bad, and I want to do a broadcast on this, when you blow out the information set and they really see how it connects to other things, that information can change a behavior that force couldn't change alone. People generally have an idea like, oh, smoking is bad, or I shouldn't drink, or I don't want to this, or I should be doing this. But they can't really see it in the context of the things that they actually care about. They just feel like it's bad. When you blow things out and you start to work with data, and remember, I've been in behavior change for over 5 years, since 2015, 7 years. Data will do it. Data will fucking do it. So in allowing yourself to have awareness of the problem, you can expect it to improve, so don't be afraid to see it. Step 3 is soothe instead of solve. So when you start to see the stuff that's not great, you're gonna likely come at it with your mind and be like, okay, let me explain why I got to be this way. Let me make it okay by seeing how they're worse than me. Let me figure out a 60-day program so that I change. No. The problem generally started in the mind, and more mind won't fix it. I know, I've tried. And again, 7 years in behavior change with other people, so I'm not like pulling this out of my pocket. Will this work for everybody? Maybe, maybe not. But if you haven't tried it, I would at least consider it. So in soothe instead of solve, I'm inviting you to notice that your knee-jerk reaction might be to run to your mind and try to figure shit out and think about it and say more things and talk about it. And I'm saying, no. Soothe. I forget which broadcast I described self-soothing. I think it might have been the first one. But to self-soothe, this is a game changer. This is how you interrupt most thinking patterns, most fight or flight responses. You can't think your way out of them. It just makes things move faster. Instead, you soothe. You act like you're a baby, and you be nice as a baby that you love, and you just, it's okay, baby, you're upset. Baby doesn't give a fuck about all the reasons. Baby doesn't give a fuck about what you might do or what they're doing. Like, the baby's upset, so you just soothe it. It's okay, I see you're upset. You feel the emotion. What you do in running to the mind is your best to avoid feeling. The more things you're avoiding feeling, the more active your mind. If you allow yourself to drop into your body and feel fear, feel anger, feel sadness, feel disappointment, feel rejection, feel those things, a lot of your anxious, depressive type thinking will likely fade, or so I've seen. Step 4 is practice loving dialogue. That goes along with soothing. That means that when you're talking to you about the things that you saw that you could do better, you're nice to you about it. There's no reason not to be. If somebody in the room was giving you shit all day long, you'd probably leave the room. Why would you tolerate it internally? It doesn't help. And, okay, so layer beyond that, let's say that you notice you have internal dialogue that's judgy and kind of mean. You might then get judgy and mean about the judgy and mean dialogue. So you just kind of like push the problem back to some, like, it's almost like somebody standing in line and then you're like, you can't be here. And then they come back with, the mustache glasses on. So when you notice that that's your pattern, when you notice you have a judgy voice, go back to soothe. And then as best you can, when it is time to talk to you or talk about what you're doing, loving, supportive dialogue. Step 5 is kind of a conjunction. And then let new. Step 6, choices emerge. Through this process, you will naturally start to see things that you can do, want to do, and feel capable to do that you couldn't before. That is the magic of awareness. When you see things differently, you do things differently. That means you don't have to force yourself to behave differently in any which way. Naturally, you will want to. The more that you ride the want-to train, the less resistance and friction there is in the system, which is the faster it goes, or so it seems. Chapter 7, the last one. Let new choices emerge, and chapter 7, or lesson, jeez Louise. Step 7 is time do its thing. Things take time until they don't. And if you expect it to improve and you're going that direction, take the timeline off. Don't be afraid about when or how you're not yet or you won't ever. Over time, these new choices that have emerged that you'll naturally act on will build out the thing that you've been trying to do. So it really is, this is A Course in Miracles is a text I talk about a lot. My phone is actually sitting on it right now in front of the flashlight. A miracle is a change in perception from fear to love. It is fear, which is essentially separation, that says you can't care for yourself, or it's not natural to care for yourself, and again, most of that thinking isn't conscious. It's just kind of secondhand smoke or condition from being a part of the body. If you always watch people in your neighborhood hang up wreaths on holidays, you'll think that everybody hangs up, wreaths for holidays. There is this indoctrination of being in these different areas where you come to think things are some type of way because you've seen them be that type of way. When you offer yourself respect and you start to do this work, then you have the courage to ask questions and make about what is. Why do we do that? Do I want to do that? And you don't even really have to go that deeply into it. You have the freedom and the confidence to say, this is what's right for me. And you're doing that, or you want to do that, because that feels like self-respect. You are honoring the impulses and what is correct for yourself, for your individual, which again adds up to your interpersonal. So your personal well-being then translates to interpersonal well-being, which is your relationships with other people and organizations, which translates to mankind is saved from itself. That concludes my presentation for today. I will likely put the 7 chapters in the notes. All of these broadcasts so far are available on IGTV. So that's a little triangle on my profile. They're all under there. And I also have them posted on youtube.com/The Shaylee Show, which is an old show I used to run and maybe might bring back, where I have panelists and panelistas, and we talk about these topics. If that's something you would be interested in participating in, let me know. I'm going to start taking names in case that's something I want to start doing again. So names for guests. And I also told myself, out of respect for myself, I usually don't put this at the end because I want to be respectful of your time, but I think that's faulty thinking, and that it might be helpful to you to know that I do work with people one-on-one to clean up their beliefs about themselves, about others, about what needs to happen, so that they have more freedom in following their natural impulses and more self-love and more self-acceptance. Like I said, I've been doing it for a while. Pretty fast and good at it, I think. You can check my reviews on habitbook.com. And I also use intuitive guidance, which is basically, I want to say, I translate energy. So when I'm speaking to someone, it's not, here's Shaylee's bag of tricks. It's like Shaylee has a bag of tricks, and then something else is like, use this bag, or use this trick at this time in this order. So if I'm working with somebody in a structured engagement, I call that habit book entourage. And at the start of the engagement, I'll map out what we'll accomplish, what it'll look like. And over time, we just chip away at the faulty thinking that's making you miserable or feel disempowered. And it is a beautiful and fun process. And if that's something that you're interested in, you can send me a message or check out habitbook.com and request an info call. Thank you so much for coming out, and I hope you have a lovely evening.